Hi, I'm Rick Richardson. Welcome back to the Salary Step Up series. And in this step, it's step 16, we're going to talk about Plan B. This is where we're going to talk about what happens if you don't get the pay request that you want and you feel that you need to maybe move on to the next step. So when do you know how to do that, and how do I best recommend how you handle that? So first, what I want you to do is always consider that you do have options. And if you know what those options are, it gives you confidence in what you're doing now. So just knowing that you have options can actually help you in getting the pay raise that you're asking for at this time. The confidence that you get from this will come through in your presentation and in your negotiations. So when you're developing your Plan B, you want to be thinking about what the pros and cons would be in considering if you leave the company and if you stay with the company. What would those changes be like? First, you want to be prepared for the rejection. Now, I don't want you to let your mind go completely wild in this, but I do want you to consider what would happen what would be the worst things that would happen if you did get a rejection. If your boss thinks that you're playing a negotiation game, they may just give you a rejection or a really low offer just to see if they can shut you up. So be prepared for that rejection, and what I want you to do in that is to consider what are your options to stay in the current negotiation but address how they're dealing with your rejection, how you're going to be prepared for it, what you're going to be ready to put on the table if that happens. Now, your backup plan doesn't have to be exclusive of any further negotiations with your current boss. So as you're building your backup plan, be prepared to have it have a duality, have the part that you're going to be pursuing a job with another company, but also have in your Plan B how you would continue to negotiate for maybe an interim position where you could have a little bit of what you want and then earn the rest as time goes on. So as you're doing your negotiations, you're preparing for your negotiations, have your Plan B have two phases to it. Oftentimes a boss will say, don't take it personally, but we just can't do this. I understand what they're saying on one level, but in reality, it is personal. This is you. This is your time. This is what you do for a living. Of course you're going to take it personally. What I want you to do is to take it personally, but don't let your emotions run away with you. You want to be prepared for the rejection so that you're able to keep control. Understand that the rejection may just be one more phase in the negotiation, or it may just be liberating to allow you to go pursue your dreams and your career somewhere else. So it is personal. This is your time. This is what you do. This is how you earn a living. This is how you provide for your family. And there's nothing more personal than that. Well, I mean, there's probably other things that are as personal, but this is how you survive. And this is how you thrive and express yourself. So it is personal. Please don't take the personal aspect and allow it to become internal and emotional to the point that you lose control of what you're doing. So if you do get a rejection, I want you to be prepared to not answer or make a decision in the heat of the moment. If you can't feel calm, then you shouldn't be talking, you shouldn't be negotiating. There's always that urge to just say, stand up, scream, I quit, and just stomp out, and it'll feel really good. And I just don't ever see anything good come from that. You'll hear stories about people say, I quit, and you see things on YouTube where people brought in marching bands and quit. That stuff follows you. And it shows a lack of professionalism. It might be really fun, it might be funny. I laugh when I see those videos, but I wouldn't do it to myself, and I would never recommend that you do it. The reality is that you need to be able to roll with these punches. It could be a test from your employer to see how you can handle the stresses of a higher position. And although I don't necessarily agree with that, I have seen employers do that just to see if they could rattle the person's cage, see if they are able to handle the higher levels of negotiations and the higher pressures that will come with the promotions. So be prepared for these things, and be prepared to acknowledge when your emotions are getting a little out of control, and make sure that your reactions are always done clear-headed and very calculated. So let's talk about when you're preparing to leave. Your preparations need to be in secret. There's nothing worse than be in the stages of preparing and evaluating where you're going to go and looking at different job offers, and then have your boss approach you and put you in a position where you have to make a decision, or they're going to cut you loose immediately. I personally like to always have all my ducks in a row before I leap on a big move like this. So what I would recommend is that you do all of your planning in secret. If you do have to share the information or gather information that involves you divulging or alluding to your move, be very careful as to who you would involve in that information, and think about what's best for you at every step. You can always look somewhere else, decide that it's not what you want, and then stay where you're at. But if you have put your boss in a position where they feel that they have to replace you because you're looking to leave, I would be really careful to not put myself in that kind of a precarious position. And I would hate to see you in that. All right, consider the timing of your move. If you're coming up on the end of the year bonuses, I wouldn't quit until I had that bonus check cashed in my bank. I would also consider big projects that are nearing completion. If you think you're going to win an award, or you're going to get some accolades, or someone's going to recognize you for this work, I would hang around until that work's finished and you get those recommendations and endorsements, get a letter from the other department heads you've interacted with so that you can put that in your file. This all goes to building your resume, your CV, so that you can present yourself in the best light to another company. Also, you don't want to be cutting yourself off from those bonuses. That's real money, and don't leave it on the table. Okay, now some of you will have signed contracts that have non-compete clauses. I want you to be very careful with those, but I don't want you to be too afraid. Most non-compete clauses don't have a whole lot of teeth. The problem with that is that they can't keep you from working somewhere else, but they can keep you from taking company secrets. So it wouldn't hurt if you've signed a contract that has a non-compete clause to take it to a lawyer who specializes in that and get some advice. Find out if there's real teeth to that or if it's just a whole lot of bark. Those scary words may not be as scary once you've had an attorney explain to you where the lines are, what you can do and what you can't do. Also, those attorneys are oftentimes really good at giving advice on how to actually do the change and walk around those non-compete clauses. Probably more than any of these other steps, this particular step needs to be something that you really consider. Lay it out with the pros and the cons. What is best for you if you leave, and what can you accomplish by leaving? If you stay, is there a possibility that you can gain those pay raises and benefits that you've wanted in the future? There just may be some real valid reason that they can't do them now and that you're willing to wait for them. It's real easy to get caught in the trap of trusting that your employer is going to deliver on future promises. I've personally found myself in that situation. I've spent years in jobs that I shouldn't have stayed. When the employer cannot deliver something of what they've promised you, you need to get something from them that is tangible enough to replace that promise that was made to you. If they've promised you a promotion and for some reason they can't give it to you, they need to create a position or pay you what you would make in that promotion, or something needs to be done in order to prove to you that they weren't just saying things to keep you there. When you're laying out these pros and cons, do it over a series of a couple of days. Look at it, then step away, come back, reevaluate, look at it again, and really decide what you want to accomplish. Once you've started to pursue your plan B, it is critical that you are confident in your plan B. If you have any doubts, you want to make sure that you are proceeding slowly in those areas where you have those doubts. If you feel that you can move quickly and your plan B is totally solid, the offer's been on the table from another company, go for it. I'm not saying that you have to be too cautious, but I want you to be very thoughtful about this and not rush into it just because you feel that you've been offended or that the respect has not been paid to you because you didn't get what you asked for. All right, one last thing I want you to make sure that you're doing. This applies to anybody, even if you're not going to be leaving the company. Always keep a backup of your information. This would be your database that you work with. This would be, again, this is, if you're working for the federal government in a secured area, this does not apply to you. You do not take secrets from your employer that you know you're not supposed to take. But for building your resume, your CV, having that information, those things that add to your credibility, your database of those people that you work with, having their phone numbers and things off of the company computer. If the company computer is going to be taken away from you, if they catch wind that you're leaving the company, have that stuff backed up. All right, so we're ready to move on to the next step. Once you're comfortable with this, reevaluate this a couple of different times as we move forward through the rest of the process. All right, look forward to seeing you in the next step. I'm Rick Richardson, and this is the Salary Step Up series.